Hi, I'm Amy Baldwin. I'm a student success expert here talking again with Lori Hazard, who is also a student success expert. And we're talking about that orientation checklist. So kind of things that parents and families and students need to think about. They've made the appointment for orientation, hopefully, right? And now they're need to make a plan as to what they need to do to maximize their time. So Lori, what is like the first thing that they need to think about when they go to orientation?
Yeah, so over the summer, they're going to have to work their way through a number of tasks or items that they have to complete before they go off to the college or university. And once they've signed up for orientation, chances are they're going to be getting a lot of emails from the institution, kind of shepherding them through the checklist. So I think we've talked about this before, right? It's so important for students to stay on top of those emails on a regular basis, because all of these different things that might appear on this orientation checklist to ready themselves are going to have deadlines that they're going to have to adhere to. And there's nothing worse than the stress of missing those deadlines, right? So, and I would also kind of note that some colleges and universities have like admissions portals that the students are in, and they can go into the admissions portal and they can look at a checklist. And then once a certain date comes, the student gets rolled over into the university's kind of information technology system that's separate from the admissions portal. So it depends on the college or university. So they're going to kind of want to be aware of when they kind of get rolled over into all of the university's official platforms once they become a student. And again, they might have those admissions portals where they'll see a checklist. So once they've signed up for orientation, some of that stuff starts kind of getting generated. And it can be confusing, right? Because every college and university is different.
Yeah, I was going to say, having to check because I'm assuming that you'll register or go through the admissions process with like a personal email. Then you'll get assigned an institution email address. And sometimes it's hard to remember. You need to be checking both because,
yes, absolutely.
They may be sending to all of, and even family emails. I know some parents get emails because they're listed as well. But really checking all of those different places is kind of a little overwhelming, but it's good to know, hey, you need to sit down and don't just check your personal email, log in and check the institution's portal. Like you said, if there's a checklist or whatever. But yeah, that's like a number one, the biggest thing you got to do.
Yeah, and I think the newness of that can kind of create anxiety as you're learning any kind of new system like that and navigating through it. And I think the important thing to note is, as we talk about some of these orientation checklist items over the summer, or readying yourselves for going to college over the summer, every institution is going to be a little bit different. So these are like some general things that students might have to consider over the summer, or kind of keep on the lookout for.
So what else do you need to do to kind of make sure that you're hitting all of your marks for orientation?
Yeah. So you're likely going to have some type of placement test. So typically colleges and universities will have placement tests if a student is taking a language.
Okay.
Then, for placement in whatever language level, the same applies to math. Some colleges and universities will have students do writing samples to kind of determine what writing class or English class to place a student in. And then some of that kind of stuff is also driven by major, and again, what classes the students are taking in the fall. So they will want to kind of keep their eye out for any info on placement tests. Some colleges and universities will deliver those placement tests at orientation, and some will have an online process to do that. So there's a good chance the student will have to take at least one placement test to determine what courses to take in the fall.
And our institution does things just a little bit differently. We use the ACT scores and the high school GPA for placement. So I'm glad that you brought up placement, because that is a word that they need to be familiar with, because there may be multiple ways that students are placed into certain college level classes, or maybe support courses. Maybe they're not quite ready for that college level. Would you agree that those things, those placement tests or those determinations, shouldn't come with any anxiety, that students really should kind of just do the best they can, don't worry too much, knowing that you know, they're going to be put in a class that's going to help them and be appropriate to them, right?
Yeah. And I think they're also not foolproof, those placement tests. Oftentimes, a student will want to talk with their advisor in conjunction with getting their placement test scores. Because at the institution I was at, we experienced a student getting placed into a math course, and one student saying, "This is so much easier than I expected," and another student saying, "I placed into this, but it is." So it's okay to shift, but it just does kind of give the university or college a temperature reading to get a sense of where to place
Right.
students. But don't be nervous about them, and work in conjunction with your advisor once you get your scores and figure out where you're going to be placed.
That's great. What else?
So students will be getting emails and information from their college or university's health services. And that area, I think, sometimes can be a lot of paperwork, right? They have to get their immunizations in. They may have to fill out some kind of questionnaire to give information. If I'm making this up, like if a student needs some kind of accommodation in the residence hall, they have irritable bowel syndrome or something like that, and they have to have special dining services. So the health services forms really function to give the college or university a lot of information about the students' living situation, but also, food allergies and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So there's a whole host of information. And then there's the insurance piece, right? Is the student going to need the university or college's insurance, or are they going to stay on their family? So, and usually you upload a lot of that information up into some kind of health system portal that the health services at the college or university has. So they're going to want to watch out for info on a whole host of information related to that.
It almost sounds a little overwhelming. So and I guess we want to make sure, that parents, families, and students know this information so they're not kind of bombarded when they get there. But also, if they have questions or they're not sure, I can remember whenever I wasn't sure if I was supposed to sign up my daughter for the health insurance that the institution provided. Just a phone call or an email, or sometimes the information is online, to make that determination as to what your next steps are is going to be really important. Do you want to speak to like reaching out as a?
Yeah, I think that is an excellent point, because both of us have worked in higher education. So when our children were going through the process, we had no problem picking up the phone and advocating on behalf of our students, or encouraging our students to advocate and get these questions answered. And parents and families and students should feel comfortable to pick up the phone, make those phone calls, send off those emails, follow up, to make sure they have all their ducks in a row when they start. And it's okay to do that. And there are experts on a college campus that are ready to help you over the summer to get yourself prepared for the big transition.
Well, give us a couple of more on your list for that checklist.
So roommate assignments, students might be connecting through social media right now to think about those roommate assignments. They might choose their roommates at orientation, but that has to be squared away over the summer, and then they'll get information about which residence hall they're going to be in. Commuters will get information about how to get their parking stickers, what parking lots on campus they're allowed to park at, and how that whole system works. So whether you're a commuter or you're living on campus, that information is likely to be coming over the summer, and they have to get that squared away too.
Yeah. What else?
So again, getting involved on campus will be something that they'll start thinking about. And I feel like students need to be a little bit strategic about that. You hear students, especially our extroverts, who want to join every club or organization right from the get-go, and it's a little bit overwhelming. So they might want to think about joining one club, right? One or two, and then test the waters and see if they can manage that with their academics. But I think over the summer, it's helpful to explore your student involvement or student activities office to kind of say, like, what might I be interested in as I'm going in, and just to kind of scope out. And I often tell students, pick the top 5 clubs and organizations that you'd be interested in, and have those kind of like prepared when you go, so you can, explore those as soon as you get there.
Yeah. often tell my students that look for things that are aligned with your major or a career path, or maybe just something you're interested in that pushes you outside your comfort zone. We have a lot of great international student organizations. So, students who are taking Chinese or interested in Chinese culture, there's a club there. And I always try to encourage my students, if this is something you've never really thought about, it looks interesting, that looks like they have fun, events, consider going to an event, maybe not joining immediately, but going to an event and kind of checking it out. And I wanted to add something about Greek organizations. I know every institution's a little different. Sometimes it's very intense, the process of going Greek, but that is, and there, benefits and drawbacks, and something that you want to talk about as a family. But there are a lot of Greek organizations that recruit early, sometimes before classes start, and so kind of investigating that, including the cost. Most college organizations are very, very low cost, or free. Greek organizations do have a cost, and they can get pretty expensive. So, but it's another great way to get plugged into a group of people, and do things on campus and get a network going.
Yeah, as you were speaking, I was thinking about like the nature of different kinds of clubs and organizations. So like you said, there are academic clubs and organizations like the Marketing Association or the Accounting Association. So those might be aligned with a student's major, but then there are more clubs that are social in nature. And then there are philanthropic kinds of things,
Yes.
or, helping hands or brothers and sisters, those kinds of things. So students might be really mindful of thinking about having a balance, like maybe I'll join one academic club, one social club, and one other type of club. So to kind of think about that too, as they're building their resume for their 4 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Give us one more. We got time for one more.
Yeah, so I think the last, maybe most important thing to think about is if you are a student who is, and colleges and universities will use different vocabulary words to talk about this. If you're a student who doesn't know what they want to major in, so some schools will call it undeclared, other schools will call it exploratory. Some colleges and universities don't allow students to declare their major until the end of their sophomore years, depending on the structure and nature of the institution. So I think just be comfortable with it's okay not to know on your first day of classes what you're going to major in, because college is a time to be exploratory and take that, at the very least, that first year. And some students will take the full first 2 years to explore what they want to do, and that's okay.
Yeah, and I see students all the time that are nervous about the fact that they don't know, and they get nervous because they're sitting next to somebody, or they meet somebody who's like, I'm going to be a nurse, and I'm going to, I knew I was going to be a nurse when I was 5. And I always go, that's great for that person, because, it's very clear that they have a sense of a pathway, but it does not mean that there's something wrong with you at all.
Yeah.
Many, many people change their majors multiple times. So you can come in going, I'm going to be a computer science major, and then change it to math, and then, oh, no, I think it's business, and then change it back. Sometimes you'll see people change it back to what they originally wanted.
Yeah.
So
I think my daughter's story is so apt in this space, because she went off to a college and was quite sure she was going to major in double major in chemistry and biology. She wanted to be a doctor. And halfway through her first year, she said, I realized I took these classes in high school because I was good at them, not because I liked them. I don't want to do this anymore. Then she ended up transferring, and she tried the psychology hat on for a while, and then she tried the communications hat on for a while. And I was, what is this person going to settle on? And then finally she settled on English and cultural studies and women and gender studies. So we went from biology and chemistry, and so it's normal.
And it's okay. And she's about to graduate. So it's all
graduate.
Good.
It's all good.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So we got placement tests, making sure you sign up for orientation, paying attention to those portals, health forums, roommate assignments, considering health insurance, getting involved on campus, and not being worried about being undeclared.
That's a great checklist. Thank you so much, Lori. Appreciate it.
Yeah, sure thing.